So I wanted to just jump on here for just a little bit. I wanted to talk about something that I'm seeing going on in the ending of relationships. Like once everything is said and done, things just sadly go into a terrible, terrible state. And I feel like they really shouldn't have to. However, unfortunately, they do. Um, I wanted to just touch base a little bit about what one of two ways a relationship can convert after everything is said and done. Once the breakup is over, everything is all over, and you're no longer together. What does a relationship end up changing into? I mean, what does it look like after we're no longer lovers? Well, one of two ways your relationship will change. So, say for instance, you've been together for years and you both have come to an end, and you've decided that you want to part ways. That's not easy. First of all, that decision is usually tough, very tough, especially if there's been children and a life built, and you've got a lot that you've invested in each other and in some joint ventures you've taken with each other. So there was a lot to get to this decision to end things. I think what's important is you don't want to get too bogged down with the fact that it's over, but rather let's focus on what we will become now that we know it's over. We're both in agreement that you and I, as this, is not anymore. So now that we realize that, rather than getting swooped up into the back and forth and everything that happened and living in the past of it, let's now focus on how can we become, a better version of the after effect of our union. So let me tell you, if you built your relationship on love, you're only going to convert one of two ways after you are over and done with. The reason I say you're built on love is because that's true. And it shows in the end. The number one way is you will just part ways and be cordial. You'll be in a cordial design. And that means you might not be, frequently involved, but in even if you see each other, there will be a hello and maybe a cordial hi and bye, and that's it, that's all. But you won't have any type of consistent frequency of contact with each other, but you do have a decency with each other in each other's presence, or if you see each other, or even if you address about that person to other people. You're not coming across as angry or bitter or any of those things. You just like, it was over, it was a part of my life, we have now moved on, and you have a respect and regard. You'll even speak. That's one way that you can find yourself in that design after everything's said and done. The second way, to which, if you were birthed in love from the beginning, the second way you can actually become, after everything is said and done, is through a platonic design, a friendship. You may still entertain, talk, laugh, go out to eat, or spend time together. Not in a loving space or anything like that, but you will have a cordial and platonic relationship, which means you still can have a life with each other after the relationship is over. You may even help your your lover, ex-lover, to move into a relationship and give them a lot of education about what to expect. You'll just have a different a different relationship design, but by all means, you'll still involved in each other's lives, which I say is always pretty much a best way if you have children, because that way they can see, well, even though they're no longer married or together, they do still have a cordial respect for each other, and a love is still there. So the reason I wanted to tell you that there's only two ways is because that's really it. Those are only the two ways that you will actually act towards each other if you two are no longer together. That's just what it is. You two will have that, rapport with each other. Now, that is if you were together and you had a relationship and everything was, on the up and up. You just are no longer together now. Now, however, if you actually birthed your relationship from lust, that's a whole different way to which your relationship will look. I want you to understand that because I don't think people realize that lust and love look very similar. Lust, when we first get involved with someone, is like, I'm so excited, we have amazing intimacy, we get along, we relate, we see eye to eye, everything is well and fine, there's high, hot passion with each other. However, when everything comes to an end, that same amount of high excitement, now the polar opposite of that comes into anger, hatred, animosity, anger, disappointment, and it matches in the same level of passion that you had with each other. When you were together, everything was wonderful in the beginning, but when you end, everything is a mess. I mean, you're talking about hugely messy. I want you to understand something. When you are angry or furious or cannot stand your ex, 9 times out of 10, it was birthed from lust. You did not birth your relationship from love. It was lust. Let me explain to you what I mean by lust. So when you came into a relationship with your lover and you decided to do this, you had amazing sex, okay? You and he may have just saw eye to eye on your past pain, on your past relationships that you dealt with. So you see eye to eye, you understand each other's pain. So you trauma bonded from that. Okay? Or it could be that you are feeling a little bit dreadful in your own esteem. So you feel like, well, let me just get in this relationship because no one else is trying to holler at me anyway. I should just get in this relationship. I'm just going to settle. And that's how you birthed your relationship. Or it could be, well, maybe it wasn't that. Maybe I just connected with this person and I had my checklist, or I had, a time frame I wanted to be in a relationship or be married or be connected with a person. So that person came in your life in that time frame and you were ready to check your checklist and you decided to mingle and be in a relationship with that person. So that's why you ended up connecting in that way. Okay, that's a lust affair. That's not love, it's lust, okay? So because you had that desire to want to get really in tune with a relationship, you did that because of that. Again, that was a lust affair. And since it was built on lust, when you end things, what happens is you end in a lot of anger, animosity. You're not really happy to see each other, and you are disgusted, and you're talking to other people about all the things that went wrong, why you can't stand them, him or her, and you're going through all of this. The reason is because you decided, when you decided to get in that relationship, at the time you settled for it, or you tried to force it, and you knew at the time that that really wasn't who you wanted to be with. You were just settling. Last but not least, the other reason why you tend to get in these relationships is because, hold up, now stay with me. Here's another reason why you get into these relationships. And it's sad, but it's true. You saw their potential. and you fell in love with it. It wasn't them in their present, but you fell in love with their potential. And so when you fell in love with their potential, you fell in love with the hope or a dream or a wish that you thought they would be. And because of that, when you split and end your relationship, guess what happens? You're ending it because they didn't measure up. These are the things that happen. But when we end things, this is how it looks. You will find out that your relationships show a lot in the end. And you will find out that you're so captivated in the beginning, but the captivation may be lustful, but it isn't love. See, I always tell my clients, and I'm very honest with them, don't get too upset to the point that you don't want to own why you got into this relationship in the first place. You need to do an autopsy of what happened. Why did this relationship happen to begin with? And the reason I say you need to do an autopsy on it, because you need to look back and see, well, let me see what I did or what I didn't do, or why I got involved with this person or not, so that I can now make better choices and relationship decisions in the future. Or I'm going to continue to make these same type of partner choices without thinking again. And it's going to cost me again another relationship disaster. So you want to sit down and think, well, wait a minute. Before I do all of that, let me make sure that I am aware of how I got involved in the first place. Let me make sure I am aware of why I ended up being with this lover and how it happened and all of those things, so that I now in the future make a better choice. Here's what it is. You can contact me. I'm your coach. You can contact me at smileandsip.com. You can make your appointment with me and we can go through conversating and figuring out how you got here, because it's not normal to always be in a hatred or a hateful space with your ex. If you're constantly in that space with an ex, then that's because you are building your relationships on lust, not love. So we need to stop you now from that happening on a continual basis and start figuring out, well, what can you do to avoid that from happening in the future? You got to get with your coach so I can help you do an autopsy on why you keep having this be a constant event for you. Doesn't cost you but $19 to sit down with me for 30 minutes. And we can talk about, well, where did you start? How did you start? Where did you start to mingle and relate to each other? Was it from your source of pain and you talking about your disappointment and he's talking about his? Or was it from a space of we were just relating and we're understanding each other? Or what was it? We have to get back to that so we know, well, wait, this is why I got here. And since I got in this headspace with this person, I'm finding myself being in relationship and being in love affairs. So I'm calling them love affairs, but they're actually lust affairs. Being in these relationships because I'm thinking that lover is a great match for me, but I'm not looking at it from a proper way to which that I should be. I should change the way I'm now going forward with how I'm partner choicing. I gotta change the way I'm doing things, or I'm going to keep having the same result. I'm now with him and I was with him and then I changed it, but your results are the same. You end up being exes and hating each other. It's always going to be that, unless you decide to make a change. I just wanted to tell you, this is what it is. It's not hard, but it's essential that you make different choices so you can get away from constantly having the same result. Life is going to keep showing you. You're going to keep meeting the same man every time until you change you. And the change has to start today. Call me at 8445-WISDOM. Get your session today. Stop waiting around and playing around. It comes to a point where you're going to keep having this relationship. It's going to be a different person, yes, but it's going to be the same result. we broke up and I can't stand him. Next thing is you're talking about him. She's talking about her. Da, 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 and it's going to be the same result every time. Only you can change it. Go to my website, smileandsip.com. Do a Coach Me session. It's $19 for 30 minutes with me. And I'm telling you, that's going to be the best $19 you spent on yourself in a long time. To where you're going to start learning, oh my God, I didn't realize I am making the same choice every time I get in a relationship. I do find myself always attracted to a certain type of man or a certain type of woman. And I keep getting the same results. And I keep getting the same breakup story. Why every time you break up with somebody, they are your enemy. You hate each other. Why? That's because you're making the choices from lust and not love. Only you can change it. But you have to be willing to do the work. I'm just saying. Again, I'm your coach, Carla Nicole. Call me at 844-5-WISDOM. Or book me on, smileandsip.com. It's just that simple. And change it. Aren't you tired now? You are always enemies with them exes. Aren't you sick of it? I mean, really. It comes to a point where it's just over. It's just over now. It comes to a point to where you now have to just get out of your pattern. And we can't change it if we don't acknowledge it, first of all. You know that your last 3 lovers were the same man or same woman, just a different birth date and a different name. They're the same person because you attract to what? You keep attracting to your trauma bonding, or you're talking about something and they relate to it, but it's not really from a loving space, is it? Because if it is from love, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to give you the skinny right real quick. If your relationships are built from love, then when you end and that relationship is over, you end in love. Period. You end in love. Your love affair, because you and he or you and she are no longer together, doesn't mean all of a sudden you're enemies. It means now I can now be friends with you. We can now be cordial to each other. I can now give you respect. I can still see the good in you. But if I'm not coming from that space, then I didn't love you. I lusted for you. That's a difference. Get your autopsy done. Get your autopsy done. I'm telling you, just holler at me. It doesn't cost you but $19. You ain't got $19? I know you do, because you're spending it on nonsense all the time. But I'm telling you, you get your session with me, you're going to learn quickly. Oh, I am making these choices over and over again. Yes. And it's not going to change until you change. I'm just saying. Make sure to share this video too. Happy Sunday. It's your coach, Carla Nicole. I'm signing off. Best kept.